So lately, I've been seeing a lot of videos of Jamel Gibbs. Now, most of you guys know I know him, just because he lives close to me and we found each other on Clubhouse. But over the years, I really started to doubt whether he actually buys houses or not. Like, does he really wholesale? Does he really own properties? I mean, I know he says he does, but I know when I'm talking to him personally, he's calling me asking how to run comps, but yet he charges $16,000 for mentorship. So today I wanted to review one of his top ranked videos. It got 1.5 million views right now. So I wanted to go through it to really see is he spitting real game? Is he giving you good information that you can implement, that you can actually use in today's market? Or is he just regurgitating what he heard from someone else? Let's get right into this.
In today's video, I'm going to share with you how you can buy your first rental property even if you're broke. Coming up. Hey, what's up everybody? It's Jamel Gibbs. Welcome to another video. Listen, on this channel, I teach a lot of different investing strategies. One of them being wholesaling real estate. And the reason why I teach wholesaling real estate is primarily because it truly is one of the fastest ways to make money in real estate. But the problem with wholesaling real estate is you're only as good as your last deal. What do I mean by that? Well, with wholesaling, you have to continue to hustle in order to find the next check. And it doesn't pay you over and over and over again, which means if you decide to ever leave the business, go on vacation, or just put a pause to your business for quite some time, guess what? You're not gonna make any money using that investment strategy. And that's exactly why I tell people that wholesaling is a means to an end.
Now, honestly, I kind of like what he's saying here because I attribute a lot of my success to wholesaling, but I really come out of wholesaling a lot due to the relationships that I found while I was wholesaling so much. So this is definitely holding some weight here in his first beginning. Now, I did see the little thing about his REI Academy, so of course he's a teacher. I get that he's trying to put that out there, but let's see how it goes.
Yes, you can make a lot of money with wholesaling. You can get rich when you're wholesaling houses, but you'll never become wealthy wholesaling houses. Wealth is built when you don't actually have to work for the money, and you receive money every single month passively without your personal efforts, or very little of your personal efforts. With wholesaling, you have to continue hustling in order to make money. In essence, it's a high-paying job for yourself. So what I want to show you today is a simple strategy that you can start using today, which I feel is just as easy as wholesaling houses. The difference is you can make some money up front, you can make some money every month, and you can make some money on the back end.
All right, so now that honestly sounds like the #1 pitch that I hear most gurus say who are teaching creative financing. So I'm assuming that whatever he says, after this is gonna be some kind of creative finance pitch to sellers, and some kind of creative pitch to buyers that allows them to get paid up front, in the middle, and at the end. Definitely a common thing here.
As well. So essentially what you're doing is you're creating a model where you can get wholesale-like checks up front. You can get the benefits of owning rental properties by collecting passive income every single month, and you can make huge profits on the back end as if you were rehabbing houses. So really you get the best of all worlds, and that's exactly what I want to show you today. And the great thing about what I'm going to show you is you don't need a lot of money to get started. You could have anywhere between $10 and $100 in your pocket right now, and you qualify at that point to do exactly what I'm going to show you today. So if you're looking for that way to build real wealth in real estate by owning rental properties, and you're looking to get your first rental property going right now, this is the video for you. Also, if you've been in a business, and you're using traditional ways to buy rental properties, keep watching this video because I'm gonna reveal something to you that's gonna open your eyes to another world of real estate investing where you don't need the money, where you don't need the credit, and you can still reap the benefits of owning rental properties.
All right, now, so this sales pitch has gone on for 3 minutes, so I'm ready to get into the juiciness. So if you guys are ready to actually get into the meat and potatoes of this video, put a flame in the comments below.
So let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is how it's even possible to buy rental properties, even if you were in a position where you didn't have a lot of money or you don't have the credit to be able to do it. Because typically the average person who's looking to buy a rental property, what they're looking to do is go to a bank to be able to get financing. And they also think that they need large down payments in order to be able to do this as well. So I'm here to dispute all of that and change your thought process on how this actually works. So the way you're gonna be able to do this is through a method called owner financing. And just to keep it simple, owner financing is basically a method that allows you to bypass the banks, to go straight to the owner of the property and use them as the bank on the property. So rather than going to the bank to get a loan or get financed, you're simply gonna go to the owner of the property and have them finance the property for you. And there's a lot.
Now, I like this already, okay? Now, you guys know I love creative financing. Actually, this is one of the ways we're actually using to buy our next personal house. Today, I spent the day making nothing but owner financing offers to sellers. So this right here is actually getting pretty good.
A lot of benefits to doing this. You don't have to run your credit. You don't have to fill out stacks and stacks of paper with a mortgage company. You don't need a lot of money to do this. So it really doesn't matter what your personal situation is because you're gonna use the house, the asset, to be able to create the deal through something called owner financing. And this benefits the seller as well. They get tax benefits for doing this. They also get a monthly passive income on a property that they no longer own. So there's a lot of benefits to using this strategy, both for you and the seller, creating a true win-win situation when you're working your real estate investing business. Now, as I've mentioned before, you can get started using this strategy even if you had as little as $100 in your pocket right now. But stay with me until the very end, because even if you put down that $100, I'm gonna share with you how to get that $100 back so you can truly be into the property with no money out of pocket. Keep watching until the very end. So let's go ahead and jump into step number one. All right, so step number one is to find the properties. And the beautiful part about what I'm gonna show you today is you don't have to spend a dime to be able to find these types of deals. The reason for that is because you're not always looking for the wholesale-like deals. And when we say wholesale-like deals, we're talking about the deeply discounted properties. When you're using owner financing, you can literally pay top dollar for these properties. It doesn't matter what the condition is. It doesn't matter what the price is. If the owner is financing this property for you and you can create a cash flow on this property and the numbers make sense, then guess what? You can buy as many of these properties as possible. And one way to find these properties is by using Zillow. You could also use Craigslist using the same exact method. So I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that right now. Let's go ahead to Zillow.
Now, I'm liking it. Like I said, this is literally exactly what we're doing with our personal properties. Finding houses on the MLS that are already listed, right? Making an offer, at their asking price and seeing if they would consider terms. So this is getting good, guys. Actually do this. So far, I'm gonna say actually do, what Jamel is talking about.
Zillow.com. All right, so what we're gonna do is go to Zillow.com. So we're gonna type that into the search bar. And once we get to Zillow.com, what we're gonna do is select the city that we're interested in investing in. So one of the cities that I invest in is Greensboro, North Carolina. So I'm gonna go ahead and select that. Now, once I select Greensboro, North Carolina, you'll notice a for sale tab up in the navigation bar up at the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and select that for sale tab. Then what I'm gonna do is select this drop down menu right next to the for sale tab. And when I select that drop down menu, what I wanna do is make sure that the only thing that's selected is buy owner. And the reason for that is because I'm looking to work directly with the seller of the property. Yes, I can find these deals through agents. I can find them through other means as well. I can focus on foreclosures and things like that. But for the purposes of what we're focusing on right now, I only want to focus on working with private owners. So I'm going to make sure that that's selected, and I'm going to go down to the bottom and click on done. Now, once I click on done, I'm going to ignore price. I'm going to ignore beds and baths because this stuff doesn't matter. I can use this method in any price range.
Now, the reason why he's asking you to, only select working with owners is because whenever you're going through a realtor, it's tougher to negotiate terms when a realtor is involved. Most realtors, they're looking for, a pre-approval letter, they're looking for proof of funds, or they're just stuck in their ways because this is how they do it all the time. Okay, so if we change that tab from agent to owner, owners typically don't sell and buy a bunch of properties like we as investors do. They typically buy one property and they sell one property. So they're more likely to be flexible with you with terms when they hear that you've bought 50 houses, when they hear that you've done, 10 wholesale deals. It's way easier to get the seller to agree and less people to influence when you have, less people involved in the mix. So I like that step right there.
Beds and baths, and also on any type of property as well. But what I am gonna do is go ahead and select more. Once I select more, what I wanna do is scroll all the way down to the bottom to where it says days on market, and I wanna make sure that that says any. And there's a couple of reasons for that, and I'm gonna explain what that is in just a moment. After that, I'm gonna go ahead and click on done. Now, the reason why I wanna leave the days on market alone and I wanna do a broad search, which is why I didn't select the price range, beds and baths, or home type, is primarily because I can buy any type of property using this method. I can buy land, I can buy residential real estate, I can buy commercial real estate. Any type of real estate that's available can fall under the owner finance category. So that's why I'm looking for pretty much anything that makes sense. But for the purposes of this particular video, what we're focusing on is buying your first residential rental property. So that's exactly what we're gonna focus on. Now, if you notice some of the labels on some of these properties, one says price cut and one says days on market. What we're looking for are the properties that have these types of labels. I'm looking for the properties with the price cuts, and I'm looking for the longest days on market. So you can see that this particular property had a price cut on December 18th by $2,601. And this particular property has been on the market for 755 days. But
I like this too. So essentially, he's saying, look for these kind of symbols, price drops and days on market. Those are indications of motivation. And when a seller doesn't have an option, when owner financing is their best option, they're more likely to choose you. So whenever you see, 755 days, like in this scenario that has been listed, that's more than 2 years. So at that point, you can use that in your negotiation, with the seller, or a price drop, by $2,000 on some land. You can use that in your negotiation. You can plant a seed of doubt. Like, hey, I see that you recently did a price drop. Did you do this price drop, or why did you drop the price? Should I assume you did a price drop because no one was interested? Just so I can understand, most people typically don't do price drops on land. Did you discover something that I should be worried about? You want to drop those little seeds of doubt when you see those red flags, because essentially they are negotiating tools for you. Whether the price or how long it has been on market, that doesn't really matter, other than it's something for you to leverage inside of your negotiation.
As you can see, these two properties are land, and that's not what I'm looking for in this particular video. What we're looking for are residential properties that you can rent out to tenants and be able to collect a monthly cash flow on. So let's see if we can scroll down a little bit and find some. You can see there's a lot of land here, just scrolling down. And what I'm looking for primarily is a ranch style home, because in this particular investment area, I do very well with ranches. Now, obviously we buy colonials and things like that as well, but when it comes to rental properties, ranch style homes work best for us. You got to find out what rents well in your area and then stick to that type of property, because it'll be a lot easier to offset that property on the back end. So I'm just looking for some properties here, and I noticed a couple here. So here's one on Sedgefield Lane. Okay, it's been on the market for 17 hours. And what I'm gonna do is contact this particular seller. And here's another one. They had a price cut on December 21st. You can see for $1,500. So chances are this person might be interested as well. And I may also contact this one. Let's look at the conditions of some of these properties, and then we'll take it from there. So let's look at the one on Sedgefield first. Usually I like to focus on the longer days on market type of property. So if it's been on the market for a while, those are the types of homes that I'm looking for. I'm just looking at the pictures. This looks like a rehab type of property, an investor bought property. So someone actually purchased this house, they rehabbed it, and now they're looking to sell the property. So this is probably not gonna be a good fit for what I'm looking to do. Let's go over to the next property. So the next one here is in Greensboro as well. Again, this has been on the market for a little while, had a price cut about a month ago, and that price cut.
I'm actually gonna not say that at all, because if you guys looked at the details in the description, you would have read real quick that it says affordable single family home only for rent and rent to own. So whenever you see rent to own, that lets you know that it's another investor. So the benefit of rent to own is that the investor who owns the property only gets cash flow. They don't have to worry about the liabilities of maintenance and insurance and taxes, really. Because they're trying to essentially do what Jamel is about to talk about at the end of this video, I bet. So I probably would have called this guy. I probably would have called that guy and say, hey man, why are you open to rent to own? Just so I can understand from your perspective, like, do you really like rent to own as an exit strategy? And when they said yes, that's why. And then you bring out all of these points, all of these negotiating factors of why they should, sell the property to you on terms. Because clearly they're already open to terms, rent to own. So don't look over the rent to own ones. That's for sure.
Cut was for $1,500, and if I'm scrolling down a little bit, notice the pictures, okay? This house needs some work, all right? So this is a thumbs up for me. Again, not taking the condition of the property into account. I really don't care about the condition of the property because I'm never gonna put a dime of rehab money into this. If I were to sell this on the other end, which is something that we'll talk about later on in this video, I'm selling this property or renting this property as is. It's gonna be the tenant buyer's responsibility to go ahead and bring this property up to par. That's typically how I usually do these types of deals. So if the property is in excellent shape or it's in terrible shape, it doesn't matter as long as I can make a deal like this happen. You can see the flooring needs work. The house is dated, just looking through the pictures here. House is definitely out of date. This master bath needs some work as well. You can see another bedroom. There's the garage. The good thing, there's a 2-car garage right there. This kitchen is old and outdated. So this is something that I'm definitely interested in looking into. And that's exactly what I plan on doing. So I'm interested in contacting these owners. The good thing about Zillow is you have access to the property owner's information, just like you would on Craigslist as well. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and find the property owner's information. Once I find their information, I'm gonna share with you the message that I'm gonna send to them in order to get them to contact me back. So being that I have an interest in this particular property, I'm gonna go ahead and contact the seller direct. The beautiful thing about using Zillow and Craigslist and for sale by owner and sites like that is you can contact the sellers direct. All right, how do you do that? So in the side panel on the right hand side of the page, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom and you keep going, you'll notice where it says contact agent. Chances are somewhere around this vicinity, you'll notice it says listing provided by owner. okay? And there's the owner's phone number. So I can take this phone number and text the property owner, or I can simply click on this button that says contact agent and contact them there. I'm gonna do both personally. I want the seller to see my text message, and I want them to see an email from me as well. So I'm just gonna scroll up a little bit. I
almost caught him right there, because I thought he didn't know where to find the phone number at. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, the phone number was way above where this is. The contact agent box that's how Zillow gets leads to sell to local realtors in the area. I thought I had him for a second, but he's still clear.
Deselect this I want financing information tab. I'm gonna type in my name here. I'm gonna type in my office phone number and email address. And it says, I'm interested in this property in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm just gonna paste another 2 paragraphs there, which will allow the seller to see what my intentions are when I'm contacting them. So let me just share with you what that says. It says, I'm interested in your property in Greensboro, North Carolina. My wife and I are looking to purchase another property in the area and wanted to see if you may be interested in taking payments on this property if I paid close to full price. And then it says, if so, when can we speak? Now, I'm truly interested in this property, so I am gonna go ahead and click on contact agent, and hopefully I'll hear back from them shortly. And as you can see, this pop-up came up. So is this your first time buying a home? I'm gonna click on no. They're basically looking for more information, so I'm just gonna X out of that. But I did contact the seller, as you saw, and hopefully I'll get a return call from the seller so I can gather more information.
Hey guys, this right here is a really good learning point, okay? Really good learning point. In every sales pitch, it should include hope for a gain, okay, and fear of loss, okay? Now, the hope for gain for the seller here is, I'm looking to purchase another property. So another, okay? So it's like, oh, he's done this before. I like this guy, he's closed in the area and wanted to see if you may be interested in taking payments. Being clear, direct, and plain with the seller. I love that, okay? Taking payments on the property if I paid close to full price. This paid close, I use that all the time when I'm talking to sellers. And then if so, when, when can we speak? I like that whole thing. Okay, I like that whole thing. I like that whole pitch right there. Now, I would suggest if you guys want to do this exact strategy, I'll suggest you copy and paste this for as long as you can, because this right here is a good text message to a seller to get them, to see if they're hot, to see if they're ready, and they might consider, owner financing. So I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
Information from this seller as well. Let's go ahead and X out of this box here. And then as you can see, here's another one I was interested in. Let's take a look at this one as well. So we've been on Zillow for literally less than 5 minutes, and we found 3 solid properties. One of them didn't fit the criteria, one did. Now let's see what this one is looking like. Now this one,
real quick, I just want to note they're great. I'm glad he sent the email, but be sure that you go ahead and give the seller a call. Call that phone number, go ahead and shoot that seller a text message. Putting the lead in on Zillow, I mean, that's okay, but you actually, putting that information into a spreadsheet, saying, hey, I have this lead, here's the seller's name and phone number and address, so that way you can go back and follow up, is way better. And then you contacting them immediately, not just creating a list, you contacting them immediately is taking action, okay? I was just talking to one of my students, and they made a list this past week in Deal Machine, but they didn't reach out to nobody. So that's the same thing as doing nothing. You reaching out, right, to the seller via text message, phone calls, or email, or mail, that is actually doing the business. You actually marketing yourself as a home buyer. So be sure that you actually do the real work, not just build up a list.
It's a pretty clean property as well. Not much to look at in terms of pictures. Let me just see what they're working with here. Just looking, nope, they don't really have a lot of pictures on this particular one, but it is a for sale by owner. Not a lot of information on it, but what I'll do is I'll go ahead and contact this particular seller as well. In fact, as I'm scrolling down here, there's an email address that I can use to contact the property owner. It says that they did some work on the property. This is an out-of-state phone number, which tells me that this is probably an absentee owned property. It says that this is the property owner's phone number. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and text this property owner, and I'm also gonna click here so I can get in contact with the property owner as well. I'm gonna type in my name. I'm gonna type in my telephone number, email address, and you can see the property address right there. And I'm just gonna paste that little.
I like that. Okay, he mentioned the area code because it's not a local area code. And so because of that, he knows they're an out-of-state owner, okay? That makes them an absentee owner. Absentee simply means that the owner does not live at that address. They live at a separate address. That makes them an absentee owner. Now, because it's a whole different state, area code, we know that they're gonna be more motivated to sell being out of state than someone that's here locally. Typically, when you live out of state, you always have to pay someone to go check on the property, to cut the grass, to do some kind of maintenance for you. So it's always gonna cost you more than if you live down the street and can go cut the grass yourself. Could go and make sure that nobody's breaking in, could go take your own, you could go take your own photos, which clearly this person wasn't able to take his own photos because he only got one, So whenever it's an out-of-state owner, they're more likely to be motivated whenever you see that area code. So that's good sauce.
Paragraph, and I'm gonna go ahead and click on contact owner. And there you have it. The message was sent, and hopefully we'll hear back from the seller shortly. So that's how you use Zillow.com in order to start finding these deals. You can see it cost me absolutely nothing, but about 5 minutes of my time. If you do a little bit of this every single day, there's no way that you're not gonna be able to make offers and create some type of deals using this particular site. So as you can see, there's a lot of properties available online. You can do this right from the comfort of your own home, right from your laptop to start finding your first rental property right now. And you can also use sites like Craigslist, For Sale by Owner, and other sites to do this as well. In fact, and even
Okay, now, one thing I want to go ahead and correct. He mentioned the time that it only took him 5 minutes. He hasn't done anything, okay? All he did was put in his name and his phone number. So whenever you're doing this, don't think it just takes 5 minutes. This is gonna take hours and hours and hours and 100, if not hundreds of properties you doing this for in order for you to get a deal, okay? The whole purpose of real estate investing, off-market marketing, is so we can create a list of people to market to them daily, get those people to raise their hand and say, hey, I will consider selling, and then do the income-driven activity, which is making them an offer, in writing, sending it to their email or house. If you're not doing that and you just say, hey, I'm just gonna take 5 minutes a day to do this, it's not gonna work.
Easier way to get this done is by using my Investor Deal Pro software. What it does is it scrapes the entire internet, Craigslist and other sites, to be able to pull those leads into the software so you never have to leave the software and you can contact these sellers in one spot. Be sure to check that out in the description box below. Now, once the seller contacts you back, step number 2 is to go ahead and pre-screen the sellers. So how do you do that? Well, an easy way for you to pre-screen the sellers is to use my property information sheet that I'm gonna link right up at the top for you. I created a video on this a little while back where I actually went through the entire seller script and I reviewed it and showed you exactly what you needed to ask the sellers in order to create any type of deal, whether it be a wholesale deal or a creative deal, just like the one we're discussing in this video. But just to give you a general idea of the type of questions that you need to ask in order to create a creative owner finance type of deal, what you want to do is find out 2 things. If there's a mortgage on the property, and also if the seller is willing to take payments over time. Now, another thing you want to keep in mind is how you present this to the seller. I wouldn't mention the words owner financing to the seller. Instead, you can say, take payments over time. Would you take payments over time? I also wouldn't ask the seller if they have an existing mortgage on the property. Instead, you can say, are you currently making payments on the property? So as you can see, how you word things can either make or break the deal. The seller can easily throw up their defenses if you ask them personal questions like, is there a mortgage on the property? Or would you consider doing owner financing? So instead of using key phrases like that, use simplified phrases that will allow the seller to feel comfortable when they're talking to you. Again, rather than saying, will you take owner financing, say, will you consider taking...
All right, I like this. Now, honestly, that's like a key indicator that he's actually talked to people about this. Because one thing I always tell people, you can watch all the videos that you want, but when you start having a conversation with the seller, I mean, that's when you get good at talking to people. That's when you find out, hey, I keep saying this and they keep hanging up after I say this. What can I change in my wording to get them to stay on the phone longer? And then you change it and boom, it happens. So that one little golden nugget that he gave right there about not saying seller financing or subject to or owner financing, asking them if they would take their payments over time. I say, would you consider taking your profits over time? But I like that. That's good. That's good stuff right there.
Taking payments over time. And rather than saying, is there a mortgage on the property? Simply ask, are you currently making payments on the property? And that'll tell you if they are making payments, obviously they have a mortgage. If they're not making payments, then guess what? Chances are there isn't a mortgage on the property, or they're just backed up because they simply stopped making payments. Either way, you can create some type of deal out of that situation. So those are two key things that you want to keep in mind when it comes to screening the sellers. Again, be sure to check out my property information sheet and my seller script review video up at the top. Now, if you're enjoying this video up to this point, do me a favor, be sure to rock that like button below. And also, share this video with all your friends that might be interested in purchasing their first rental property, but might be limited on capital. Now let's go ahead into step number 3. All right, so now that you have a property for sale, and you've also pre-screened the seller, your next steps are to make an offer to the seller and get your agreement authorized. Now, when it comes to making your offer to the seller, what you're gonna do is use my creative offer formula. And I'm gonna go ahead and link a video up at the top that I've put together, which shows you in full detail how that creative offer formula actually works. Now, just to give you a general idea of what the creative offer formula is all about, it allows you to pay close to asking price, if not full asking price, to the seller. It also discusses the deposit amount and the down payment amount that you're gonna provide to the seller, the monthly payments, as well as the amortization to the seller. Now let's break this down a little bit. So when we're talking about the actual price to the seller, let's just say a seller is asking $100,000 for a property and they want, let's say $5,000 down. What we're gonna do is offer the seller $100,000 and $5,000 down. But we're gonna ask the seller to delay the down payment until the closing occurs. And remember that $100 that I told you about earlier in this video? What you're gonna do is take that $100 and provide that as an earnest money deposit to the seller, solidifying your agreement between you and the seller, making your contract valid. Now, just because you negotiated $100 with the seller doesn't mean you can't put down less. You can put down anywhere between $1 and $100 and still make a deal happen. So if you have very little capital right now, this is a strategy that can work for you.
Man, I like that. Most wholesalers, whenever they're watching YouTube University, a lot of people teach the $0 deposit, but that's legally, you don't have like a legally binding contract when you use zero on your contract. You can do it, you can do deals like that, but at the end of the day, if something were to happen and you had to go to court for it, that wouldn't hold up. So I like the $100 because boom, they're locked in. You dropped earnest money. You have great intentions on actually fulfilling the contract. So that's a good nugget right there.
No matter what your financial situation is, once you negotiate your price as well as your earnest money deposit and your down payment with the seller, what you're gonna do is find out what the rental comps are in the area. And in that video above, I show you exactly how to do that. And whatever the rental comps coming at, you're gonna slash that in half and offer that as a monthly payment to the seller. And as far as amortization is concerned, you're never gonna mention the word amortization to the seller. Instead, you're gonna use the word payment. So let me give you an example of how this actually looks. Let's just say that you have a property where the seller is asking $100,000 for the house. You're gonna offer the seller $100,000, and let's just say that they want $5,000 down. You're gonna offer them the $5,000 down, but you're gonna ask them to delay the down payment until the closing occurs. And in exchange for them delaying the down payment, you're gonna give them a $100 earnest money deposit. And again, I'm gonna show you how to get that earnest money deposit back so you can be into this deal with no money out of pocket. Even the down payment is not gonna come out of your pocket. Bear with me, I'm gonna explain it to you in just a moment. Now, in addition to the price and the earnest money deposit, as well as the down payment that's a part of this deal, what you're gonna do is offer the seller.
All right, one thing that I'm gonna disagree here, I'm not gonna ask nobody to delay them getting their $5,000. I'm gonna assume that they know this. So I always call it assuming the sale. When I send them the purchase agreement and it has a $100 deposit, but me and the seller agreed to $5,000 down, they know that they're not getting the $5,000 because I need to do a title search, and this has to, all deals in North Carolina had to go through a real estate attorney. So I'm not asking them, and I don't think you guys should ask them, hey, would you delay me putting the $5,000 down? You don't need to say that. You know, just assume that they know that, or set the expectation. Hey, today I'm gonna send over a purchase agreement so we can get it over to our closing attorney. That way I can go ahead and send them the $5,000 down. You know, you can assume that they know that. You don't have to feel uncomfortable about asking them to delay your that didn't make any sense to me.
Half of whatever the rental comps are in the area. So let's just say for this particular fictitious property that we're talking about, the rent will come in at about $1,000 per month. Then what you're gonna do is offer the seller $500 a month. And rather than mentioning the word amortization, you're gonna ask the seller if they're willing to allow you to make 120 payments to them, and then on the 121st payment, you'll pay the property off through what's called a balloon payment. Or in other words, a lump sum of money to the seller up front. And again, that money is not gonna come out of your pocket either. And I'm gonna explain how in the next step. Now, when it comes to the agreements that you're gonna sign with the seller, what you're gonna do is sign what's called a standard purchase and sale agreement. So any type of standard purchase and sale agreement will do for this.
I never mention a balloon, especially, I never mention a balloon. You know, balloons aren't in favor of investors, in my opinion. And honestly, the best bet an investor can have is fixed interest debt for long term. So I think he said 120 months. So that's, you know, that's probably 7 years. I think so. But still, that's not what I'm going for first. I never mention a balloon unless it's a problem, you know, for the seller. If a balloon in 7 years gets the seller to sign, then amen, we can do that. But when I'm negotiating, I never mention a balloon, I never mention interest rate either. Because honestly, people will agree to holding a note for 30 years. People will agree to 0% interest. And some things, if you just don't say them, you know, that's the same thing as them agree.
Type of deal. And in addition to that, you're gonna sign a seller financing addendum with the seller, okay? And these two agreements will be put together and combined as one agreement. And the cool thing about using a standard purchase and sale agreement is it usually will have a section in there which will allow you to spell out the terms of your seller financing deal with the seller. And if that doesn't cover it, the seller financing addendum will cover it for you. And I'll provide a copy of these for you in the description box below, so be sure to check that out. Now, finally, there's a couple of things that I want you to keep in mind when it comes to getting your agreements signed by the seller. You never want to use the words sign or contract.
I like this. I do the same thing. So go to thisismetakingaction.com. and you guys can download my free purchase agreement that we have there. I do the exact same things, but when you guys buy one of the courses or get like a coaching call or something, you will get access to the This Is Me Taking Action drive, which will have the seller addendum there as well. So be sure to go and get your free purchase agreement.
With a seller, okay? Those are red flag words. If you use the word sign and contract, the seller feels like their back is up against the wall. So rather than using the word sign and contract, use words like authorize and agreement. You see how that will allow the seller to drop their guards? Hey, Mr. Seller, do you mind authorizing this agreement? Rather than, hey, Mr. Seller, can you sign this contract? So the words you use and the way you talk to the seller is really the key to getting these types of deals done and making the seller feel comfortable while you're doing these types of deals. So again, make your offer, get your agreement signed by the seller, make sure you talk to them in a way that they're gonna feel comfortable with the situation, and then you can move on to step number 4. All right, so step number 4 is to go ahead and find your end tenant buyer for the property. Now notice I said tenant buyer. And the reason for that is because when you're brand new, what you're looking to do is build capital while creating passive income in your real estate business. So by you finding a tenant buyer for the property, what you're in essence doing is allowing yourself to collect some money up front, collect some money every month, and collect some back-end profits. And guess what? The tenant will be the one taking care of your down payment. The tenant will be the one taking care of your monthly payment, and the tenant will be the one paying for the property on the back end, leaving you with a spread on the property, allowing you to make a lot of money on this type of property. So how do you go out and you find these tenant buyers? Well, it's really easy. One strategy that we use in our business is posting ads on Craigslist. Notice what this ad says. It says, quickly buy a house with no bank involved and very little down. Now you think somebody's gonna call on that type of ad? Absolutely. Quickly buy a house with no banks involved and very little down. Everybody's looking to buy a house quickly. What you're doing is providing a solution for this type of buyer. You're allowing them to purchase a property without having to go to the banks. And guess what? If they don't have a lot of money to put down, or they don't have the ability to pay cash for a property, they can take a portion of the property price and put that amount down as well. Now, one thing I want to point out.
No, I will say I really like Jamel's quick pitches. I think you should literally copy and paste some of his text messages that he offered to reach out to sellers, and definitely that marketing ad to find the lease option tenant.
Notice I said very little down. I never gave them an actual amount to put down. The reason for that is you're looking for the buyer who has the ability to make the monthly payments and put the most down on the property. So when a buyer contacts you and they say, how much do you want down? Your very next question is gonna be, how much do you have to put down? And guess what? The person with the most money to put down is gonna be your buyer. Now, generally speaking, you're looking for at least 10% down on this type of deal, and that 10% will allow you to make your down payment to the seller. And in addition to that, if your rental comps come in at, let's say, $1,000 a month, you can actually increase the amount of the monthly payment that the buyer is gonna have to make. So generally, I like to increase that amount by 10 or 20%, and I'm selling the property on a lease with an option to purchase, AKA a rent to own. Now, one thing that we do with these types of deals is we sell these properties as is. So you never have to come out of your pockets for rehab capital either, so keep that in mind. Now, finally, when it comes to the rent to own exit strategy, typically what we'll do is we'll make the buyer's terms shorter than our terms. What do I mean by that? Well, if I have a 10-year payment.
Oh man, that's actually really dope information right there. And so I'm gonna go ahead and co-sign for my boy. This is one of my good friends, a really good real estate investor of mine. I talked to him about making this video, and I told him I was kind of scrutinizing it a little bit, but going through the video every step of the way, he's very accurate and sharp about the whole details of the process. So essentially, you're gonna buy on terms, and then you're gonna sell on terms. This is definitely one of the best ways that I actually make money with property. I'm actually doing this right now, a little differently, but I'm actually doing this right now on one of the houses I closed on a couple weeks ago. And I'm doing it in several other deals that I own as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and co-sign my boy. I'm gonna leave his YouTube and his Instagram down in the link below so that way you guys can follow him. Me and him, we do a ton of content together. We even do some like meetups here locally in Greensboro if you guys want to get involved. So go ahead and take action on this so that way you guys can have get your first rental property. Okay, in my opinion, I call it getting paid to buy houses, this strategy right here. Okay, so remember, you don't need all three: time, money, and knowledge. Just like Jamel said, I mean, you don't need no money, you know, you just need a little hustle. You need to be willing to put in the work. Go out and do some work, take action, buy some rental houses. Peace, y'all.